Whoever did this had a very sadistic streak.
I knew there was something wrong with this man. If I knew that he was capable of killing,
those remains lay there long enough, and the plants grew and eventually covered the remains.
she wanted to meet people so that she could become a star.
He's definitely a sociopath. He wants what he wants, and he will go to any lengths in order to get it.
Every murder is a mystery. But a victim's body is a sea of evidence. Every fiber is a clue. Every wound, a piece of the puzzle. The medical examiner holds the key to unlock their stories and catch a killer. This is Secrets of the Morgue.
It's a good community. We have sunken gardens. We have thousands of parks. Very good people.
But St. Pete, Florida has a darker side.
There are parts of South St. Pete that I wouldn't walk in. It definitely wouldn't be safe going to the ATM once the sun goes down.
One morning, during routine work along I-275, the darker side of St. Petersburg erupts into view.
The state hires crews that come along and clean the roadside. When we get torrential rains, all that water has to go somewhere. All the leaves and trash that were along the road are washed into the drainage swale.
A roadside worker was cutting grass and kicked something. Then he looked down and he found it was a skull. So he immediately called his supervisor, who called us. We walked right across maybe 50 feet of grass, and we're told, well, they found a skull here. Normally, 8 months out of the year, there would probably be a foot of water, if not more. Everything had to be right that day. The weather had to have been dry for a little while. They had to be mowing that day. All of these circumstances kind of work together. We think there's more body parts here. Now we go to the next step, which is how are we going to find out how much is out there? Unbelievable. If you've driven on 275 every day, it's 200,000 or 300,000 people going up and down the roadway, and we're 40 to 50 feet off the road.
To deal with the scene and whatever remains it may contain, Detective DeCero calls for some extra medical muscle.
When bones are found, you need a forensic anthropologist to answer a lot of questions for you. First of all, how did the bones end up there?
One of the key scientists on the case, Dr. Anthony Falsetti, is a renowned expert, having worked war crimes in Sarajevo and both the World Trade Center and Oklahoma City bombing cases.
When I was at the University of Florida, we processed over 1,000 cases in that 12-year period. Justice being served, I think, is very important to help the evolution of our species, in a very broad sense. Forensic science is the practical application of all the testing and all the scholarship. It's very satisfying.
The forensic anthropologist helps to organize the excavation.
A large team is necessary to recover the remains because weather changes rapidly. In Florida, where we have heavy rains, the concern was they wanted to collect these remains quickly and accurately.
There's always a sense of urgency. Every day the scene would degrade a little bit.
It's a crime scene that looks like an archaeological dig.
When dealing with human remains, the process is the most important part because each individual item, whether it's a piece of evidence or clothing or bones, could be critical to the identification.
We're going to have to generate some type of system in order to basically grid this area off and make 4-foot sections.
We assigned 2 people to each square. One person removes the debris, the other person takes the debris so that it can be screened.
We don't want to miss anything small.
Over 40 investigators work to process the area. It's a giant puzzle, but slowly, a picture emerges.
As we're all working together, different things are coming up at different times. We pick up jewelry, we find this matted, nasty glob. When we wash it off, it looks like a hair extension. The acrylic nails that we found were kind of unique in the pattern, and each one of the pinkies had a fake diamond in them.
The nails, jewelry, and hair suggest the skull belongs to a woman, but investigators need to unearth more remains to know for sure.
We started to find more and more bones. Not to sound morose, but it feels good because this is something that you can work with.
Some plants were actually growing through the bones and over the bones.
So you're watching this person go from 1 bone to 2 bones to 5 to 6 to 10 to 15, and you're actually seeing a body as it's going along.
A key part of the skeleton allows the forensic team to ID the sex of the victim.
The initial examination in the field was to look at the pelvis. The pelvis is the best indicator. At puberty, the female pelvis becomes more broad. And so at that initial examination, we determined that this was a female.
For investigators, a roadside crime scene presents unique challenges.
When an investigator finds bones on the side of a highway, the problem is that quite often these victims are people that have never been reported missing before because they are living high-risk lifestyles, whether they're drug addicts or whether they're prostitutes, and it makes it difficult.
Because of her location and the fact that we don't know who she is nicknamed Jane Doe I-275.
Forensic science is the team's best hope for identifying the body and discovering what happened to Jane Doe I-275. Her bones are transported to the lab for analysis.
An inventory is made. On paper, each bone is identified as to what bone it is, what side of the body it's from. Is there any trauma or injury to that bone? I mean, the bones were in fairly good shape for having been submerged in water seasonally. In order to address the question of who it is, you have to establish a biological profile. You have to describe this person based on their skeletal remains.
The forensic anthropologist studies the bones for key indicators that could help identify the woman.
Up until about age 25, various parts of our skeleton are constantly changing. At the ends of the clavicle stop growing around age 21. In this instance, the ends of the clavicles had yet to finish fusing. And then you can look at the teeth. We have 6-year molars, 12-year molars, and our wisdom teeth. The 3rd molar was erupted.
A final clue about Jane Doe's ethnicity helps round out her profile.
The skull was measured in details to capture the size and shape of the skull. The determination of ancestry was made as Europe.
Police now have a basic profile of the victim. Female, age 18 to 20, of medium height, and European descent. But it's not a lot to go on.
You have a body with no name. You have to find out who that person is before you can go forward. How can I solve this puzzle? because until you know who, it's very hard to determine why this happened or who else may have been involved.
In the United States, there are thousands of missing women who are found later along the sides of highways. A disproportionate amount of these women are from marginalized communities that don't have the best relationship with police and often don't have ongoing contacts with family members and friends who can speak to their whereabouts.
It's kind of a phenomenon, the number of women that go missing each year. So you read about people who go on for 10 or 15 or 20 years, always worried about what happened. They never found my daughter.
It will be an uphill battle, but Detective DeCero is determined to find justice for Jane Doe I-275.
I find it rewarding to be that last voice for the victim and to give some kind of closure to the family. Some families go years and years and years without finally being able to put their thoughts of that person in a good way.
Investigators work with the only lead they have, the bones.
In this case, there was a reconstruction that was made. When an artist is making a reconstruction, they take measurements that have been defined by anthropologists at certain anatomical landmarks of the skulls. The chin, the base of the nose, the cheekbones. But the artist will build their reconstruction around those known anatomical points. Facial reconstruction is often considered a means by which to attract the public's attention, and it is a way to generate leads.
The hope is that a reconstruction will allow friends or family to come forward. But there's always a risk of inaccurate details resulting in false leads.
Facial reconstruction can be fantastic. It can also be a hindrance due to the fact that it's in the eye of the beholder and what they intend to do.
Police often have to sift through hundreds, if not thousands, of these anonymous tips, which can send them into multiple different directions and ultimately delay an investigation.
The tips are slow at first, but they continue. As they start to go through, it's a lot of, I think it's my cousin, I think it's my aunt, I think it's a young lady that I used to know. And you get more and more of that from the community. Every one of the tips has to be investigated. So we were calling family members back, trying to see what we could do to get any lead up on who this young lady was.
In order to narrow their search, detectives need to know how long Jane Doe has been dead.
There's definitely a color variation in the bones. So we've got to estimate how long would it take in the state of Florida for somebody to totally decompose and then have the ability to have the bones then start to bleach.
The body was put in this relatively shallow marsh, but just enough to cover the body up. The fact that it was buried was just the effect of the natural environment. So that gives us some idea of the amount of time that passed.
Taking into account the condition of the remains, the medical examiner calculates when the woman was killed.
The original time of death was 3 to 5 years. That's a time frame on how far back we should be looking.
It's a timeline that could link these remains to a famous missing persons case. Investigators in St. Petersburg consider if Jane Doe I-275 could be Tiffany Sessions, who has been missing since 1989.
Tiffany Sessions was a University of Florida student who went out for her evening walk and never came back, ever.
All kinds of theories abounded. Every once in a while, they'd come forth, somebody would come forth and say they knew something about it. Could not find her.
The mystery of her disappearance put Tiffany Sessions on every investigator's radar.
Tiffany Sessions. It always comes up when there's a young woman's body found.
The case is so well known, the medical examiner can quickly access Tiffany's medical records and examine her dental x-rays.
We were able to eliminate the case from I-275 as being Tiffany Sessions by comparing dental records that we had of Tiffany Sessions to the dentition of the skull.
With few leads on an ID, police considered connections to the area where the body was discovered.
Because I-75 runs from Naples all the way to Cincinnati, we could have anybody coming up and down that road at any point in time that could have done this. We know that there's serial killers that operate throughout the United States at all times, so we have to look at every person that's imaginable.
After consulting a database of killers known to have operated in the region, Detective DeCero focuses in on a possible suspect.
We dealt with a person called Keith Jesperson, who killed several women. He was currently incarcerated in the state of Washington. But he admitted to killing a woman in the state of Florida. So we knew he had been in Florida at some time. Any new lead that comes in like that, where you have a known killer who's admitting to killing someone in the state of Florida, it would pique our interest. Keith Jesperson was a very large man, and he's called the happy face killer. Because he liked to make the little smiley face on people after he killed them. But he would kill a lot of people by asphyxiation. He would pick up girls at truck stops and things of that nature and choke them out.
Detectives examine the items recovered with the bones for any link to Jesperson.
A shirt was found in the area of the neck, where the neck would have been during life. Its physical location told you a lot about what happened just prior to death.
The shirt that was tied around the neck that had been tied into a big knot, was it strangulation? Some type of airflow cutoff, some type of asphyxiation?
Even though he's behind bars, Keith Jesperson, the happy face killer, could be a lead suspect.
He was a truck driver, so it would have been easy for him to pull off the side of the road and dispose of her.
Most serial killers don't change their MO. The reason is that they're staying within their comfort zone. They're using the same tactics to lure the women into their trap. They're using the same weapons to kill them, and they're using the same methods of disposal of the body.
Detectives know Jesperson killed his victims through strangulation, so they turn to Dr. Falsetti to determine how Jane Doe I-275 died.
The skull told us about the injuries that she suffered at or around the time of death. We took the skull and x-rayed it, and under x-ray, we could actually see lead debris. There is evidence of 2 gunshot wounds to the back of the skull, fractures radiated out from them in what we call a stellate pattern or star pattern. So in this case, her cause of death was gunshot wound to the head.
The bullet wound did not fit with Keith Jesperson because was not his MO. We pulled his trucking records, we pulled his weight logs, and we pulled his cell phone. And we kind of saw where he was. His timeline didn't fit ours. At this point in time, we're still looking to see who could be our killer. Is it someone that picked this girl up somewhere, had a dispute with her? Or was it a boyfriend-girlfriend situation where they were into something they shouldn't have been into? We really don't know. In a cold case, you kind of always hit dead ends. You go through 50 reports, you might get one possibility. You start to look at more and more aspects of what else could it be?
Detective DeCero scours the items recovered from the crime scene in search of new clues. He finds an unlikely thread to follow.
As we're starting to look a little bit more, we find the breast implant. Even though it's the side of the interstate, not many people are throwing breast implants out the side of the car window. Breast implants actually have serial numbers on them and can be traced back through the manufacturer, then back to where they were sent to. It links back to the doctor in Maitland, Florida, which is over by Orlando. He opens his file up and we actually see a picture of Jane Doe prior to the breast implants, and all of her information is listed in the report. Next, we have to confirm the ID. We're able to get some dental records, and we're able to get a confirmation positive that it's Cheryl Commesso.
After more than a year of searching, Jane Doe I-275 finally has a name.
We go to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, and there we find the missing person report of Cheryl Commesso. We're positive that it's her based on all of this information. We speak to the family. They were heartbroken. They were upset. They were besides themselves that this could happen to a member of their family. Until you do everything in your power to make that family whole. Cheryl Commesso is a young lady from Brandon, Florida. She had been an exotic dancer at several different locations.
The last club that Cheryl worked at was called Mons Venus. Detectives tracked down and interviewed the employees who worked there when she did.
Contestant number 2, Cheryl Commesso.
She was attempting to network. She wanted to meet people so that she could climb the ladder and become a star, and that was her goal. She was an amazing dancer. It was incredible. She just needed to meet the right people, and she thought that dancing there was going to do that.
Live from 133 Trevor Street, at 5.
Young women who get involved in exotic dancing often have this hope that they might get discovered, that this might become a springboard into other kinds of career opportunities, including acting, including modeling, and so forth. But many discover when they get into the club that it's not what they expected. They are often exposed to people who abuse them, who harass them, and they discover very quickly that there aren't these kinds of opportunities to branch out.
Detectives suspect Cheryl was working in a dangerous environment. There's no telling who she met at the club.
The customers that come in come from all walks of life. Some are good, some are bad. Most of them have some shady background to them. You have a whole pool of nefarious people to deal with in these strip joints.
Investigators focus on the Mons Venus strip club, searching for a break in the murder of Cheryl Commesso. After hours of interviews, one name keeps coming up.
We find out that no one in the entire place liked Franklin Floyd. He's been a career criminal for 50 years. So he keeps going back into jail, learning new things, coming back out, learning new things, coming back out.
Floyd is the stepfather of one of the dancers, Sharon. He spends a lot of time around the club.
People thought it was odd that you would go watch your daughter dance in a topless facility.
Floyd's disturbing behavior is confirmed by a friend of Cheryl and Sharon.
He drove us to a party, and he reached over and he pinched his daughter's nipple. And he said, "She has a nice ass." I was shocked and appalled and disgusted. And he had a conversation with me regarding some BDSM activities. I was so frightened because he was speaking about sexual torture, and it seemed like a switch in him flipped.
The stories raise red flags for the investigators. They take a hard look at Floyd and his daughter Sharon.
We had interviews of people that knew Sharon. We find out quite a bit.
Sharon admitted to me Floyd had been abusing her whole life. I told her we needed to find a way to get her out of there and away from him. And she never thought for one second she could get away alive.
It's clear to police that Floyd is a violent man, one with dark secrets.
Sharon talked to a friend saying that she knew something so bad that could put Franklin away forever.
But whatever Sharon knew, she was never able to reveal.
In 1990, she was run over walking on the interstate at 3 o'clock in the morning. She was probably more like run over by Floyd, would be my guess. He thought, you're not going to turn me in for anything.
Sharon's death is ruled a hit and run, but the connection to Floyd is suspicious. Another witness at the club tells them that Floyd was also violent with Cheryl.
One of the dancers observed a physical altercation between the two of them, where Cheryl allegedly said, I've got enough on you now that you're going to jail. We know there was a physical altercation after that. I think that the whole aspect of it was she challenged him. Floyd does not like to be challenged. So he figures, this is one I can't control. She's not scared of me, she's not intimidated by me, so the only way to do it is I'm going to have to do something so drastic.
Franklin Floyd has a disturbing reputation at the club, but detectives need more to connect him to Cheryl's murder. It's a lead from the FBI that changes everything.
Unbeknownst to us, the FBI is working a kidnapping in Oklahoma. The person who committed the kidnapping is Franklin Floyd.
Floyd is captured and held in jail. When the truck Floyd used for the crime is searched, the FBI finds some shocking material.
And there are various pictures of women in different stages. Obviously not stages that she was enjoying. This is some type of trauma being done to her. And one of these pictures is a picture of a young, dark-haired woman who's being choked out.
Detective DeCero obtains the violent pornographic images from the FBI.
She's in distress. She's obviously been beaten. She's got a large hematoma under her eye. Whoever did this had a very sadistic streak.
Police believe the woman in the photos is Cheryl Commesso, but she has been beaten so badly, Detective DeCero can't be sure.
When you have photographs of a living person with injuries, it would be possible to use those photographs to make a comparison with the remains that you have and those injuries that are present.
The forensic team examines the photographs in the hope they can make an identification.
So what they had was these well-documented photographs of the injury to the face. They then did an anatomical comparison. This underlying fracture is here. This injury is on the same cheekbone here. And this allowed them to tie the injuries together. And the person in the photograph was identified as Cheryl Ann Commesso.
Investigators have further evidence connecting Franklin Floyd to Cheryl Commesso, but it isn't enough to prove he's the one responsible for her brutal homicide. Detective DeCero wants to confront him about his involvement.
Before we went out and interviewed Franklin Floyd, we talked to the behavioral science unit at the FBI, and they were very informative. What they said was, if you want to get anything from this man, before you can ask him any questions, just let him talk. So when we went out there, he probably talked for about 3.5, 4 hours straight. Then we start sliding in simple little questions to him, little ones that he can't deny, like, do you know Cheryl Commesso? Never heard of her. Here's her picture. Have you ever seen her? And then Franklin put his thumb on the picture and held it up and kind of, yeah, I think I might remember her.
The net around Franklin Floyd is tightening.
We went back the next day and talked to him again. First thing he wanted to do was re-see the picture. And he's holding the picture up, and what he's doing is he's looking for his thumbprint.
Investigators are closing in on Franklin Floyd for the murder of Cheryl Commesso. They challenge him about his connection to her death.
He went into another tirade. He denies. He made statements about, you don't have any bodies, we don't have any way to prove it. He's a sociopath. He's very plotting. I think we've only hit the tip of the iceberg.
While the photos are brutal, they do not prove that Floyd killed Cheryl. Floyd could claim he got them from someone else, or that they were taken years earlier. Detectives turn to Dr. Falsetti in order to determine when the injuries were inflicted. They need to know where the torture fits within the timeline of Cheryl's death.
We look at fractures or damage to bone, and we try and determine what the category is. Antemortem, perimortem, or postmortem. An antemortem injury is one that's healed. Perimortem is anything that occurred at or around the time of death.
So if something happens to the victim's bones at or around the time of death, that's not going to change. That's going to be a permanent record.
Cheryl's injuries are considered to be perimortem. There's no sign of healing. The cheekbone imbended, which it does when it's viable. There was also an injury to rib that was also considered perimortem in nature. The facial fractures and the gunshot wound would have occurred in a relatively close period of time, a couple of days, if not hours.
These findings prove that the photographs depict Cheryl's final moments. Now, police need to prove that Floyd was there when they were taken.
The important thing is the pictures of Cheryl Commesso when she's being beaten. There are obvious signs that you can identify in there, the couch, the paneling, and say that is definitely a trailer.
Detectives get an address from the staff at Mons Venus for a trailer park listed as Sharon and Floyd's residence. Police want to see if the photos were taken where Floyd lived.
Finding a location where the victim was killed is often a turning point in an ongoing investigation. It opens up a new realm of possibilities for investigators who can now find additional clues to solve the case.
But when police arrive at the park, they get a big surprise.
Somehow there was a mysterious fire in the trailer, which burns the trailer down to the ground.
But DeCero discovers someone who knew Sharon and Floyd when they lived in the park.
We found a woman who lived in the trailer park. Floyd and Sharon lived there. She identified the couch and the paneling from the picture.
There's no doubt Cheryl's photos were taken in Floyd's trailer. Every sign points to Floyd as Cheryl's killer. But investigators hit another roadblock.
We have a suspect. We have a lot of evidence that places this suspect in a relationship with the victim. But the postmortem interval, as currently calculated, excludes him because he was in prison during this period of time.
If Cheryl was killed between 1990 and 1992, as originally calculated, Floyd couldn't have done it.
Franklin Floyd wasn't in jail at the time, plain and simple.
Detectives decide to review the original timing of Cheryl's death.
We go back to Dr. Falsetti and say, based on what you're seeing, could the timeline have been a little bit longer?
As I studied the environmental area, went back over the case notes and the botanical material that was cut and preserved. This botanical material was covering or growing through the bones.
The vegetation on Cheryl's remains gives Dr. Falsetti a new plan for determining when she was killed.
The idea that I had was, well, maybe we could use the plants to determine the time of death. I had met Dr. David Hall, who is a botanist at the University of Florida.
Well, my background is basically all of botany. The things that a botanist can do for you most commonly are destroy an alibi, put someone or something somewhere based on plants, and determine time since death.
Dr. Hall examines the plants found among Cheryl's remains to make his own assessment about her time of death.
I found 3 plants that I could use from the pelvis, and 1 that I could use that was growing under a leg bone. In the temperate world, you can count the rings that that tree gets. And if the tree is through a skeleton, you know that it's been there at least that long. I take a very sharp knife and cut through the branches as clean as I can. There were 3 clear rings, so they were 3 years old.
Cheryl's body is discovered in 1995, so 3-year-old plants appear to place the crime in 1992, as originally estimated. But there's more for Dr. Hall to calculate.
Body fluids are caustic. They don't help a plant at all. They usually destroy plant growth underneath. So after the remains were completely deteriorated and there was just bone left, then these branches grew through the hip bone, grew through the pelvis. I asked 2 medical examiners who had worked in that area for many decades about how long it would take a body to deteriorate. It's almost 4 years. It would take a while for the branch to get there.
When body decomposition is factored in, the time of Cheryl's murder changes.
This is not a year growth, this is not a 5-year growth, this is a 6 to 7 year growth minimum. It's another piece of science that goes with what we believe, goes along with the statements, goes along with all the physical evidence that we have. No matter what Floyd says, we can disprove it.
Investigators have nearly all the evidence they need to close the book on Franklin Floyd for the murder of Cheryl Commesso.
When we explained to Floyd, you did the murder in 1989, he then goes off the deep end saying how we planted evidence, how the pictures weren't his, they were planted.
Floyd also denies a connection to the trailer.
Floyd says, could be anybody's trailer. I could have lent my trailer out to someone, and you can't prove it was me.
The biggest challenge when investigators think they have their person, but they don't have any physical evidence linking that person to the crime, is that they know this case might not hold up in court. Oftentimes, jurors will want to see something more concrete that links that person to the crime.
You gotta remember, he's been a career criminal for 50 years. So he's obviously not afraid of the system. And he knows if he manipulates the system the way he wants to, he can get through it.
If police can't prove he took the photos of Cheryl, Floyd could end up free.
He is a killer. He's that type of person. I don't want to ever see him out on the street.
Detective DeCero goes back to the photos of Cheryl provided by the FBI, searching for anything that could prove Floyd is the photographer.
You can actually see a hand on her buttocks when somebody's taking the picture. The number of wrinkles that are in your thumb, that's unique to each individual, much like a fingerprint.
The case against Floyd now rests on matching thumbs.
The knuckle fold is a double-edged sword, because if we couldn't prove it was him, then that would give him a defense. If we could prove it was him, that takes away all defense. And they took a secondary picture of Floyd's thumb and compared it to the picture with his hand on the buttocks and said, that's definitely Franklin Floyd's thumb.
The scientific evidence tells us, and the identity of the individual, which is Franklin Floyd, This affirms the story that the prosecution will tell, and it gives the jury something tangible which to base their opinions on.
Franklin Floyd is put on trial for Cheryl's murder.
Sitting on the witness stand, looking at the pictures of Cheryl, beaten, tortured, these dirty, exploitive pictures. It was so heart-wrenching.
The mystery that the science was able to resolve was, who was this person who was found by I-275? The other question, what were the circumstances of her winding up by the side of the road? It is the communication between law enforcement and the scientists that eventually answered those two simple and incredibly complicated questions.
The scientific evidence at trial is great because it allows the jury to understand it's backed up, it's not conjecture, it's right out there as a undeniable truth.
Floyd is convicted of killing Cheryl Commesso and is sentenced to death.
Cheryl's family, they were very happy. They felt that there was justice done. Cheryl never got a chance to grow. She was a young lady feeling her way in the world, and he ended that. A lot of times when you work something that's heinous or awful or something that you just can't make sense of, it makes it worth it because you know that you've made a difference in some lives. It's rewarding.
Cheryl had so much potential.
I love dancing. I really do. I love dancing.
I will never get over losing her. I've just become more accustomed to her not being here.